That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Boys, I hate myself. I spent like 2, 3, I don't know how many hours working on this video. Ended up deleting it, so here we are, recording it again. DeVonta Smith. Now, my former wide receiver 1, I think we are going to have to be lowering him down. Now, if you've been paying attention to the rankings on Patreon, y'all probably already saw that after his pro day, we went right to it. We went and updated those rankings right away where DeVonta Smith was no longer our wide receiver 1. Dropped him down a few spots. At the end of the video, I'll talk about exactly where he's ranked and where I'm planning on drafting him in 2021. But before we get to that, what I want to be doing is I want to go through and I want to A, look at his measurables, B, look at the historical comparison for wide receivers with his frame, C, dive in with a little bit more depth than other people are going to give you with his production profile, and then lastly, we can go through and we can talk about possible landing spots where I think DeVonta Smith could excel, possible landing spots where I think that we would just kind of be sitting there crying. But of course, before we get into the video, go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. So let's get into it. DeVonta Smith just got done with his pro day. And here with DeVonta Smith, the number one thing that people are going to be talking about, the number one thing that we are going to talk about at the beginning of this video is the fact that he came in at 6'1", 175 pounds. Now, don't ask me why he even bothered weighing in. Don't ask me why he even bothered doing anything. I mean, who is talking to DeVonta Smith? Who is giving him advice? It's not like this is a 40-yard dash time where DeVonta Smith on Saturday can go out there and run something that he likes, and then a few days later kind of just drop the ball. Maybe he's not feeling well. Maybe he doesn't hit his number he wants. No, DeVonta Smith that morning could have went, all right, let's weigh myself. Maybe if we are having a little bit more water in us today, we could weigh possibly 185, get people to kind of stop talking about my weight, at least silence it a little bit. Or if we were down here at 170, 175 pounds, let's not do anything. Let's just do what multiple other wide receivers are doing and just tell NFL evaluators, hey, look at my tape, look at my production. That's all you need to know. But for whatever reason, DeVonta Smith decided to go out there and get his height and weight measured, which good for us Dynasty owners. Now we can go, hey, we don't need to be drafting DeVonta Smith over Jamar Chase. And let's dive into exactly what this means. Let's dive into some comparisons for other wide receivers. And what I want to do to just keep it extremely simple, just making sure that people are seeing how much of an outlier being 6'1" and 175 pounds is at the wide receiver position in the NFL, is let's just go through the top 12 wide receivers in points per game from 2020. Let's look at their height and weight coming out of college and compare it to DeVonta Smith. So first off, you're going to have Davante Adams, who here, same height, 6'1", yet he weighs 40 more pounds, 215 pounds here. Then Tyreek Hill, 5'10", so 3 inches shorter than DeVonta Smith. You also hear Tyreek Hill, you go, okay, he's a burner. He wins on his speed, probably not bigger than DeVonta Smith, but no, 3 inches shorter, 10 pounds heavier. Stephon Diggs, here, a little bit slighter than your average wide receiver, but still shorter than DeVonta Smith at 6 foot and weighs a solid 15 pounds more. Calvin Ridley, 6'1", 190 pounds. DeAndre Hopkins, 6'1", 212 pounds. DK Metcalf, obviously a monster. Keenan Allen, 6'2", 211 pounds. Adam Thielen, 6'2", 200 pounds. Will Fuller, finally, we're getting to someone who doesn't weigh 200, 210. It's going to be Will Fuller at 6 foot, 184. Now, I will say a few things about this. A, don't let this seem to be in the same ballpark of a DeVonta Smith at all, in that Will Fuller is an inch shorter, 10 pounds heavier. And to go along with this, we understand that Will Fuller is a wide receiver that wins on speed. Will Fuller is a wide receiver that wins not necessarily by being the biggest wide receiver on the field. No, he wins by being the fastest player on the field, getting behind the safeties, and having that deep ball potential. So, yes, Will Fuller, you can say he's slighter, but he has that elite 40 time. With DeVonta Smith, we don't even have that to look at. Then Allen Robinson, 6'3", 211. Justin Jefferson, 6'3", 192. So here's another player that's a little bit comparable to DeVonta Smith in BMI. And with Justin Jefferson, I want to remind everyone that was playing Dynasty last offseason. Yeah, I mean, going into the NFL Combine, not many people were high on Justin Jefferson. A lot of people were kind of just pigeonholing him as a wide receiver that was a product of that Joe Burrow type offense. But he ended up coming out and putting up a very impressive 40-yard dash time that said, hey, maybe there is something here. Maybe he is an above-average athlete. So Justin Jefferson, to go along with Will Fuller, has that top-end speed that has been proven. Then we have A.J. Brown, absolute tank at 6'1", 226 pounds. So I hope this gives y'all some context to exactly how small DeVonta Smith is, and that we really have no examples to look at of a wide receiver that is 6'1", 175 pounds, providing success with volume at the NFL level, because we know volume is what is king in fantasy. And another red flag on the DeVonta Smith profile is his age. Now, this is something that we talk about all the time. We've been talking about it for years. What you want with these rookies coming out, especially at the wide receiver and running back position, is you want them to be 20, 21 years old. You want them to come out after their third season, their true junior year, because there is a strong correlation between fantasy success and the players who decided to declare early versus the players who stayed all 4 years in college. And we see this not only in just the correlation for raw fantasy success, but you also see this in the dynasty market. And the best example I can give of this for anybody who maybe is a little bit new to dynasty and doesn't understand the impact that a rookie's age will actually have on how the dynasty community reacts to their trade value after their rookie season, is if we go back to 2019 and we look at some wide receivers that were drafted in the second round of the NFL draft that all had fantastic rookie years. You have Deebo Samuel, you have DK Metcalf, and you have A.J. Brown. And now, yes, A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf had way better profiles than Deebo Samuel. Nobody's going to argue that. But what you're also going to find is you're going to find the fact that Deebo Samuel was an extremely impressive rookie. He came out and was an impact player for a Super Bowl team in the San Francisco 49ers, put up similar numbers to A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf over the course of the entire season. Yet, after the first year in 2019, you found that Deebo Samuel's value really didn't change that much. And that's because Deebo Samuel was that older wide receiver coming into the NFL. So a lot of people sat here and went, oh, okay, what is the upside here? Is this a factor that he was just the polished guy coming in and going to be making an impact, and his long-term upside may be a little bit limited compared to someone like A.J. Brown, someone like DK Metcalf, where they came in, they were 21 years old, their rookie seasons. They put up those numbers, and everybody went, oh my gosh, they did this at 21. Imagine what they're going to do next year. And now they are on a great path with their age-adjusted production. And because of that, they are elite fantasy assets. So that's another thing that we want to be looking at and acknowledging with DeVonta Smith. Now, I will say, it seems like everybody else in the dynasty community has kind of turned a page and is all on the fact that age kind of matters with these prospects coming out now. Finally, people are starting to pay attention to that. But I think it's talked about a little bit too much with DeVonta Smith, to be honest. Because while, yes, we just went through the case of age mattering a ton for these rookie wide receivers, what we also have to do is we have to put some context behind it. And generally, the reason age matters a ton is because the players who come out early are the players with elite age-adjusted production in college. The guys that broke out their true freshman season at 18 years old, and that is going to have an impact on what wide receivers become successful at the NFL level. Well, DeVonta Smith, no, he did not break out his true freshman season. In 2017, he was hardly a factor, where he was only averaging 20 receiving yards a game. But, like I said, context is king. Now, think back on another player that everybody is loving in Rashad Bateman, where everybody's heard the kind of pro-bullish argument for Rashad Bateman, where people are going, hey, look at his early breakout age, and he was playing next to Tyler Johnson, who is actually a real-life NFL wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who did get on the field year one. Well, yeah, Tyler Johnson, cool story, bro. Here with DeVonta Smith, let's listen to the wide receiver room his true freshman year at Alabama, where he had Calvin Ridley, Obviously, Calvin Ridley, just a top 5 wide receiver in points per game in 2020. Then you have Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, who were both top 15 drafted wide receivers in 2020 as well. Then you have Cam Sims, and I know a lot of people haven't heard of Cam Sims' name, but he is currently on the Washington football team. He is very similar to Tyler Johnson, where he is an NFL player. He was a 4-star prospect coming in, so there is no really reason to just fault DeVonta Smith for not being able to outproduce a player that was, I believe, in his junior or senior year at Alabama when DeVonta Smith was 18 years old and this player was NFL caliber. Then you also have Robert Foster, who is ahead on the totem pole of DeVonta Smith, where we know that Robert Foster, if you're unfamiliar with that name, just think back to his true rookie year in Buffalo, where he was actually kind of exciting with Josh Allen. A lot of people kind of fell into the same trap that they're doing with Gabriel Davis right now. I mean, Robert Foster was an undrafted free agent coming out of Alabama, but he did make that impact his rookie season. Now, yes, he's flamed out of the league, but we understand that's what happens with those undrafted free agents. Still notable to say that he was ahead of DeVonta Smith. So you can look at this room and you can go, hey, it's completely understandable why DeVonta Smith was not able to get on the field and produce at 18 years old. Let's go through and let's track what he did afterwards, where his true sophomore year, this is another red flag that I will say. I'll say I wish we would have seen more production in this season. By no means was he very bad, but he was actually 5th in Alabama in receiving with 3.2 receptions a game, 52 receiving yards a game, and 6 total touchdowns. But here, if we go through this, I mean, we had some other great wide receivers on the roster where, yes, you still have Jerry Jeudy, you still have Henry Ruggs ahead of DeVonta Smith with receiving yards per game. But in addition, you have Jalen Waddle, who had a very impressive 2018 season. There's nothing against DeVonta Smith. If anything, it's a bullish argument with Jalen Waddle. And you also have Irv Smith Jr. I know he's a tight end, not a wide receiver, but still a pass catcher that has been very impressive in his first 2 years in Alabama. So DeVonta Smith, yes, you would have loved to see more production here, but 52 receiving yards a game, that's fine in that wide receiver room. And even more impressive than his senior year, that we'll get to in a second, was his true junior season, where in the same wide receiver room with Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle, DeVonta Smith actually led this team in receiving yards, where he averaged a little over 5 receptions a game, close to 100 receiving yards a game, and 14 total touchdowns. This is ahead of Jerry Jeudy. This is ahead of Henry Ruggs, Jalen Waddle. Najee Harris was actually 5th in receiving this year for the Alabama team. But if you're excited about Jerry Jeudy, DeVonta Smith outproduced him at the same age in the same situation in Alabama. So we can go, okay, at the very minimum, we can probably say DeVonta Smith is on par with Jerry Jeudy. But we had a very hard time to evaluate his true upside when he's surrounded by these other elite wide receiver prospects. Then 2020 happens. Then we have DeVonta Smith come in. And yes, he's playing along Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle gets hurt, so can't really say that too much. And another wide receiver he's playing alongside is actually John Mechie, who right now is on track to be drafted in the NFL draft after he gets done at Alabama. He was a 4-star prospect coming in. But most importantly, DeVonta Smith, 9 receptions a game, 142 receiving yards a game, 24 total touchdowns. Now, if we look at this in the grand scheme of Alabama's offense, DeVonta Smith actually accounted for over 50% of the receiving yards by Alabama last year. That simply does not happen. That does not happen unless you're looking at a team that is just playing in a no-name conference. Unless you're looking at a team where a wide receiver kind of pops off like a Jeff Janis and he's playing alongside a bunch of guys that are going to be car salesmen once they graduate. But no, this was at Alabama. This was in the SEC. We have, I want to say never seen this. There's no way that we have seen this before with what DeVonta Smith was able to accomplish his senior year in Alabama. And I understand it's discounted because he was 22 years old when he did it. But even if you discount this, it's still extremely impressive nonetheless. And we've seen this before with these wide receivers that are a little bit limited in college, especially early on, because they are surrounded by great teammates. I mean, 3 recent examples of this will be Ole Miss with A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, LSU back in 2014 with Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr., and also Clemson a little bit before that with DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, and Martavis Bryant. So please, guys, understand that this isn't a new thing. It's not a new thing to see these wide receivers that are in crowded wide receiver rooms not necessarily be able to provide you that elite level production at a very young age because they're surrounded by other elite wide receiver prospects. And then by the time they get to the NFL, they find a ton of success. It's happened before. It's happened multiple times over the past 60 seasons. Now, let's kind of transition over from DeVonta Smith. Let's kind of talk through some of these landing spots. And we've had a ton of movement as of late with the Miami Dolphins making trades. But right now, Grinding the Mocks has DeVonta Smith as the wide receiver 2 off the board and the 9th player overall off the board. And if you don't know what Grinding the Mocks is, it's just a website that accumulates mock drafts from all over the internet and then puts them all in one place. It's kind of like an ADP where they have, I believe, like 800 mock drafts at this point. So I think it's a really useful tool to try to project where these wide receivers are going to go rather than just looking at one media's person's mock draft. But anyway, if we go through and let's look at the first like 5 picks before 9th overall and then the first 6 picks afterwards. Yes, you have the 49ers trading up to 3 where some people were mocking DeVonta Smith to go to Miami, but Miami trades back to 6. And we sit here going, honestly, I think that this is a strong likelihood of happening. I think there's a strong chance that Tua and DeVonta Smith get paired back together, and we saw that with Miami moving from that 12th pick up to number 6. And I think at that selection, they are either going to end up looking at DeVonta Smith, Jamar Chase, or Kyle Pitts. Nonetheless, that would be a great landing spot. Another possible landing spot would be the Cincinnati Bengals at 5, but I think in that scenario, you're just going to end up seeing the Bengals go with Jamar Chase over DeVonta Smith. So if they, for whatever reason, decide to pass on offensive line, I think they would probably go with Jamar Chase. So that leaves us at number 6 yet again with the Miami Dolphins. Then we go to 7, the Detroit Lions, where I know that sounds like a disgusting landing spot, but guys, while the quarterback play is going to be bad, while the overall offensive efficiency is going to be horrible, there are so many targets to be had there right now. I mean, are y'all that excited about Rashad Perriman being the wide receiver 1 for the Lions? I think that if the Miami Dolphins pass at 6, the Lions are very likely to take DeVonta Smith at 7. If not, some other wide receiver needy teams in this range, you're going to have the Giants at 11. You're going to have the Chargers at 13. And very unlikely, but just in case he does slip, you would also have the New England Patriots at 15. So now that the Eagles traded back to 12, I think that it's a little bit more likely that DeVonta Smith actually finds himself in an appealing landing spot. So I think we have to get a little bit more excited about DeVonta Smith. But lastly, let's address where we moved him to in our overall rankings. And previously, we had him around that 8th player overall in Superflex. And in one quarterback, we had him around that 3rd, 4th player overall. Well, now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move him 2 spots back in both formats. We're going to have to move him behind Jamar Chase because Jamar Chase, checking all those boxes now, is going to have to be our wide receiver 1. Then we are also going to have to move him back behind Kyle Pitts because, yes, Kyle Pitts, I believe, was overrated at the beginning of this offseason when people wanted to take him at the 104 in a Superflex league. I thought that was absolutely crazy. Now, I think if you can get Kyle Pitts at 108, that's a completely fair price to pay. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope this gave some context to why I think I'm probably going to be drafting DeVonta Smith more than other people this year because, yes, it's concerning the size. Yes, it's concerning that he stayed all 4 years, but that last part isn't too concerning because we understand the context behind it. But regardless, thank y'all. I hope y'all go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see y'all with the video tomorrow.